Hello everyone, for my capstone project here, we have Ms Chebz here. Ms Chebz, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and thank you.
So Ms Chebz, I have a couple of questions here I want to ask you, and is it okay if I ask you these questions?
That works.
Alright, so knowing you Chebz, I believe you worked at Sound, so how would you describe that experience there at Sound?
Oh, I worked at Metro, and it was a diversity, of experiences. And it really depends very much on the leadership of the school. So sometimes we had a very tight, united community. Then after the pandemic, we ended up with a community that was really, really in distress and a lot of acting out and a lot of sadness, depression, and people stomping off into the corners to cry for different issues. So the climate of the school can really, really vary depending on what year it is and what's going on.
Got it. So I would say, like, coming from Metro to Highville, like, what was that like experience like for you, and how did that like kind of like change like as like you came here?
The difference in the schools is that here there's a much higher level of cooperation. It's like when students are asked to do stuff, there's a high probability they'll do it. It's a high probability that they will buy into whatever needs to be done for their own academic success. And I can't say that the same level of buy-in existed at my previous school, even in the good years.
Got it. So I believe this was your second year of teaching here in Highville. How would you describe your experience so far?
I'm gonna say it's been a really, really good experience. I think that in the high school, there are extremely high standards for behavior and extremely high standards for getting your work done. And I think that leads to a lot of student success. So I like this model of education. High expectations is a way of actually getting people to achieve.
Got it. As well as to managing your workload, you also have Ms Jackson here. How would you describe like working with Ms Jackson, and what does that like mean to you, kind of?
Ms Jackson has taught me a whole lot of stuff. I sat in 2 of Ms Jackson's classes, and the stuff that she taught, I was like a baby in there. I didn't know that stuff. Like, I think I had my head down on the desk throughout my whole biology education. So there was so much information that I was missing, and it was just good to sit in her class. And then in terms of her 9th grade physical science class, there was a whole heap of stuff I didn't know, and I learned from just sitting in the back of the classroom. So she's definitely a very brilliant teacher, and I think we complement each other in that at least she knows a whole heap of stuff that I don't know. And I have to now learn because I'm teaching physical science.
Got it. And back to that, learning as well as teaching. So as we move on towards our postgraduate like careers and stuff like that, what is some advice that you have for, as we move on to like, high school, after high school?
So let me think. I do want to say that ultimately you're going to find out as you go in the world and work gets more competitive that there are no real smart people. There really aren't. There are only people who put in a sufficient amount of time to understand the material. There are no really, really talented people in terms of the arts, in terms of making projects, in terms of robotics, in terms of anything. Those people who are excelling at that bought their excellence with time. And that is the one thing I wish I knew before I went to college. You buy it with time. I would have spent some of that pool table time, hanging out in the cafeteria time, more on work, because excellence can only be bought with time.
Thank you, Ms Chebz.
You're welcome.